Hello everyone, it's GigaBeef here, and today we're taking a look at the supposed one-hit wonder that is the Ash-12, which is a little more popular in 12-12-30 than usual due to the best ammo for this weapon being unlocked a little bit more easily than it was before. There are only 3 cartridges for the Ash, PS12A, PS12 and PS12B, and what usually brings attention to this gun in the first place is that they all have insane damage, but as the first two have 10 and 28 penetration respectively, most players just live for PS12B, which is rated at a staggering 46. Only 1 pen less than 7.62 BP, but with 75% extra damage. Previously, this round was unlocked with Grenadier, but now that it has swapped places with, yes, in fact 7.62 BP under Punisher 5 instead, it's a bit more accessible, although still at Prapor 4. You can buy 300 rounds per cycle, but the downside to this is that the global stock runs out relatively quickly as well, meaning that you have to watch those reset timers. So with 102 damage and 46 pen, what does this mean practically speaking for the performance of PS12B in raid? Against class 4, we're looking at a 95% chance to penetrate on the very first hit, and because the damage is so high, the mitigation of the armour is not enough to stop it from killing the wearer outright to the thorax. Against class 5, it's still a very decent 46% chance to pen on hit 1 with a fresh armour. However, in this case, because the round is sort of in the same range as a class 5 armour so to speak, i.e. roughly 10 times the armour class, the mitigation value here is around 25%. This is kind of surprising, as if you penetrate with 102 damage, you'd normally expect to kill someone, but with 25% of the damage being removed by the class 5 armour on the way through, this means that you're only hitting for 76.5 instead. To make sure that this was the case, I hopped into co-op with the Discord member Natnat and we ran through a few armours. In this instance, the Gazelle and the Korund are probably the most interesting. The full durability Gazelle got penetrated on the first hit, passing through 74 damage to the player, and while the Korund did absorb the first shot and only dealt 26 blunt damage to the thorax, on the second shot both armours were penetrated by PS12B, but we were still less than 85 damage on each. The Gazelle passed through 78 damage on shot 2 at 71% of its starting durability, and the Korund passed through 81 damage at 63% durability from its original maximum. So basically, unless the armour is severely damaged below about half durability, you sadly aren't going to be killing other PMCs with one shot to the thorax with the Ash-12, despite how it looks initially. One interesting note is that if fragmentation was working correctly, you would expect to one-shot to the chest roughly every third hit, because of PS12B's 30% fragmentation chance, which would give it enough damage to kill because we're quite close to the 85 threshold. But as of the time of recording, it appears that fragmentation on PMC thoraxes and stomachs from shots fired by other PMCs is still not happening right now, so we'll have to rule that one out for the time being. If we move up to class 6, that has a 0.2% chance to pen on the first shot, which means you'll need to hit a few times before actually getting through. Such is the power of class 6 in general against rounds with lower than about 55 penetration. Against a slick, for example, even the third shot will still only have around a 40% chance to penetrate the armour, and the Tasmanian Tiger SK rig will save you from the first 2 before the chance skyrockets over 50% on the third. Okay, so now we know what the rounds are capable of doing, but what about the weapon itself? Bizarrely, because of where it ends up on the traders, i.e. at Prapor 4 and barter only, the Ash is much more of a budget gun than it first seems. While it is possible to buy it on the flea market, if you don't have access to the weapon on the trader, then you most likely don't have access to the good rounds either, which in my book means you basically shouldn't be using it. This is because although PS12B can be crafted in the level 3 workbench, this requires at least level 30 for mechanic 3 and takes 20 hours to make. Prapor 4 is theoretically unlockable at level 36 anyway, so the number of players in that little progression gap are fairly small. Oh, and it costs an absolute fortune on the flea market. So if you do want to use the gun, then get them from Prapor using the vodka barter. This only takes 2 vodkas, and you can buy 2 of them per reset. I tend to look out for vodkas at around 20 to 25k, which makes the base weapon cost a mere 40 to 50,000 rubles, which is pretty cheap. Once you have your hands on one, we run into Tarkov's bullpup problem once again. Shared by the MDR and the RFB, because there are no detachable stocks for this weapon, it's practically pointless trying to reduce the recoil with attachments because the base recoil is relatively low at 150 compared to other regular weapons with detachable stocks. This is compounded with the Ash because we don't really have much choice either. The muzzle that the Ash comes with reduces this down to 114, and the absolute most recoil reducing foregrip, the RK2, only takes this down to 108. On this basis, we should just focus on ergonomics, and I typically either use the foregrip that it comes with, or for +2 you can get the Knight's Armament VFG from Peacekeeper 1. This is extremely cheap, and I just don't think it's worth getting 1 or 2 points of vertical recoil for more money. It makes no practical difference to the weapon. Interestingly, there is a suppressor for the Ash, but it makes the recoil worse than the regular loud muzzle device and stops it from giving off that fear-inducing Ash unsuppressed boom, but it's there if you want to try it out. Oddly, one of the largest costs for this gun are the 20 round mags, which are just under 25,000 each from Prapor 4, so if you're feeling stingy, like I usually am, you can just use 1 in the gun and 2 10s alongside. If you're using it on semi-auto, which I highly recommend by the way, this should be fine most of the time. The full auto mode is incredibly hard to control and very wasteful of ammo, and this would require you to take more 20 rounders, so use it at your peril. It's also got a big Picatinny rail, which means you can use any optic that you want, and side rails for lasers and flashlights of your choice. Typically I just run it with an EOTech holo on top and a laser on the side. However, you can mount larger scopes and optics onto this, and I know there are some masochists out there that enjoy a bit of Ash-12 sniping. I really haven't done much of this myself, but something interesting about the Ash-12 bullets that we haven't discussed yet is the fact that they are subsonic, meaning that they travel slower than the speed of sound. Even the fastest round PS-12B only travels at 300 meters per second from the muzzle, but a funny quirk of the way zeroing works in Tarkov means that scopes actually work fairly well for it. This is because the default zeroing for the Ash is set on the PS-12 round with 285 meters per second, which is pretty close to the PS-12B's 300, and because they were all subsonic, you don't get the issues that you do in other calibers where they have a supersonic default round for the zeroing, such as 7.62 US. Also, because the initial velocity is very low, the round doesn't have much else to lose. This means that it keeps its damage and pen values quite well over distance because of the way the round drop-off is calculated. Comparing it to 7.62 BP, after 140 meters it has more penetration despite starting with 1 less initially, and it still has around 94 damage. A potential sniping contender then? Well, I'll leave you to decide on that one. Finally, we'll look at a few raids to get a feel for how the Ash handles in the wild. I went in the day. The images are going on the floor. Do I have a Propitol? Oh god. Really should have one on me. If you were doing this in a very and you might I thought I heard somebody in there. Well guys, maybe just doing the quest? I don't know. I could have sworn I heard somebody in there. Like the most imperceptible like little movement. Okay, let's keep going. Also someone in that divot. Apparently not. Jeez. Now where is that person? Somebody in here. Is it Scav? Ow. Sub count's cool, but you know, get to 100k would be awesome. Like it's what everybody wants to do because you get the nice plaque. Yeah, it's pretty dark. I thought that was a man, but it was in fact a tree. Oh, and there's a crickend as well. Very good. Now, I guess, can we get in through this window? Not the worst. Yeah, the flash drive's pretty rare. I heard him just twitch slightly. Well, I got annihilated by the ash. I feel like even now it kind of helps with the... This is what I was saying a minute ago, right? I feel like it helps with the contrast. I mean, it's terrifying, this gun. Like, any time it touches the thorax with class 4, you just die. No, dude, they're one shot. Well, they're one shot to class 4 anyway. We're testing out the old Ash. The Ash-12, because it has bullets that are like small artillery pieces whenever you fire the gun. And unsuppressed, it sounds like an absolute banger. Whoa! Whoa, whoa! Get in here. Oh. That took altogether too long. Ah, he's a PMC. Okay. Or playing scout. He was. Okie dokie. It's PvP and I hardly ever actually get to loot them. Actually, no, let's not do that. The Ash is nuts, guys. The Ash is actually nuts. Any APs? No? This guy. Dante. MP5K. How fun. Next up, check out my video on whether the M1A and the SR25 can still be made on a budget after being banned from the fleet this patch. Otherwise, as usual, a big shout out to all my patrons, hit all the buttons if you enjoyed the video, and as always, have fun in your raids.